Thanks. Time as any, Mr. Newman. Take her down to periscope depth.
Yes, sir. Clear the bridge. Dive.
And greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. I'm your host this evening, Salvador Cordova, and I'm joined by Emery Moina, our resident graduate student in biology, who's going to graduate at the top of his class, I anticipate, and not too long. Praise the Lord. So Emery is going to help me out because when my computer crashed, I lost everything I queued up that I was going to, my PowerPoints and the websites. I had a huge presentation, and I'm going to need about 5 minutes to assemble it. So we'll talk a little bit. So first order of business, this channel is dedicated to helping Christians especially build their faith by studying evidence and reasons for the Christian faith. That begins with studying science and evidence of God that are revealed in nature. And that's like, say, 65% of what this channel is about. Next is archaeology. And occasionally I've been in contact with Sandy Pigeon. He got saved through the testimony of archaeology. And then next is Christian testimonies. And then we do some things with biblical difficulties and just a tiny bit of what I call presuppositional apologetics, maybe 5%. Of late, we've been doing some other things for evidence and reasons. Now, some of you, I had a 50% growth of my channel because of my involvement in the McLean Bible Church issues. Because there are numerous legal things going on, I've been requested to be silent on it for a little while until the judge makes a decision. So I'm sorry, guys, that came out here to hear McLean stuff. I'm under a gag order, at least for a little while. There might be things that are already public knowledge that I might be able to talk about, but as much as I'd love to talk about that, I've been requested to. So kind of in an odd sort of way, maybe I'm going to have to rely on Emory to kind of air all the dirty laundry about my own church because I've been asked. So there's a little loophole there. So maybe I could pass things on to Emory and he can do the dirty work for me. How's that sound, Emory?
Sal, I have no problem offending anybody, so feel free.
So perhaps you could talk a little bit. I'm going to try to get the banner set up, the rolling banners for the McLean people. And if you could just kind of fill the air while I get some of this, maybe you could explain what peer review is and stuff and why it's a big deal.
Sure.
Twice this year, praise the Lord that I've been in peer review. Maybe you could explain why this is significant.
Sure. So just a real quick update for anybody. I think everybody's been here before, but Sal's the smart guy. I'm the dumb guy. I'm the guy I'm the guy who throws all the punches. Sal's the nice guy. Okay, so let's just get that out in the open right now. I'm going to be the mean one. Sal's going to be the nice one. We'll put that out there right now. But in terms of peer review, Sal has been working with some people who are even smarter than the two of us put together. Yes, I know, Sal. I'm not joking. On some various papers, and I actually have not seen the paper that he's talking about yet, so I'm very interested to see it tonight. But he's been published already once this year in a peer-reviewed journal, and he's got a second one up now. What does yes, Andrew? Yes, that is appropriate. Bad cop. Yes, exactly. Peer review basically is you send a paper to a journal and the journal sends it out for external review. And the journal will send it, hopefully, supposedly, to people who are experts in whatever field you are writing about. If you're writing about, embryology, they'll send it to an embryologist. If you're writing about plant photosynthesis, they'll send it to somebody who's an expert in plant photosynthesis, hopefully. And they'll read your paper critically and provide you feedback on it, and they'll also provide the journal feedback on it. Generally speaking, the feedback comes in a couple of forms. It'll either be, oh, this is great, I like this, here, fix a few things here, fix a few things there, you can publish it, or hey, this is there's some good meat here, but it needs extensive revision, go back and fix these 5 things. Or they'll say, this is terrible, don't publish it. Now, the journal is not necessarily bound to what the reviewers say, but they will usually, and I say usually, follow what the reviewers tell them about the paper. If it comes back and they want a bunch of revisions, generally speaking, you'll have to make those revisions before the journal will publish. Sometimes the journal will give you a little bit of leeway, particularly if the editor is knowledgeable in that particular field and he thinks that maybe some of the objections are overblown. But usually you will have to make the revisions to make the reviewers happy. And that can result in quite extensive changes to your paper, depending on what the reviewers want. Now, if you are a known creationist, your hurdle just got twice as high because they have no.
How about like 10? How about like 100 times higher?
Okay, there we go. We can go with that. Your hurdle gets a lot higher because they know that you probably are publishing stuff that is going to hurt them in the long run. Or even if you just challenge the established paradigm on something and you're not a known creationist, you're still going to have be very unpopular with the reviewers. And you're likely to have to make significant changes to your paper to make it less in conflict with the evolutionary worldview, or you are going to have to just scrap it and find another journal, usually one with a lower impact factor. And for those of you who don't know what an impact factor is, you don't need to. Basically, it just is how well read and how influential the journal is. Because obviously the top journals can be more selective, right? If you're Nature, or you're the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, or you're the Royal Society journals, you can afford to be selective. If you're some podunk journal that's only been around for 5 or 10 years, and you struggle to put out a full issue every year, you can't afford to be quite as selective. And it just kind of depends on the journal. Now, a lot of journals are moving to purely online formats. They don't even put out a physical edition. That would be Public Library of Science, and a lot of their journals, they don't even put out, as far as I know, they don't even put out a physical copy. It's all online. And I think that is helpful in a sense because it makes it easier to find. Like a lot of the old journal articles, the only way to find them anymore is if somebody scanned them in at some point or other. Some generous librarian or something like that went in and scanned all the papers or whatnot. Like, and a lot of the really old papers that are significant, they get scanned in. But the ones that people don't view as incredibly significant, they just kind of gather dust on a library rack until the library goes, yeah, we don't need this anymore, and they throw them away. Which is unfortunate because there's a lot of knowledge there that is going to be lost eventually because they just aren't going to take the time to scan everything in and upload them and whatnot. But yeah, that is peer review in a nutshell. Now, of course, that is assuming, of course, that the system works the way it's supposed to, which anybody who's ever had to deal with peer review knows it doesn't work that way. Because no human system ever works completely the way it's designed to work. Peer review is open to a lot of abuses. It may be the best system we have available, but it is not necessarily a good system.
It's changing. And I'm all queued up now.
All right, awesome. I can stop talking.
At least temporarily. Okay, thank you for bailing me out here.
No problem.
So just to update some of the longtime viewers. Okay, so we had the McLean crowd. And as I said, I'm on a gag order. But Emery's not. Hint, hint. So I can be ghostwriting for him material, and you can pick it up on his channel. And maybe I don't have, I'll put it in the video description at some point because I slapped this all together today.
So I don't usually like advertising my own channel, but because you made me a mod, I can link my own channel. So I'll just drop that in the link real quick. There we go.
Okay, for some reason my screen froze and I don't know why. Let me try to do a refresh here. My camera is going, but I have to do this through the backup computer. This is really strange here. So, well, let's hope the show can just go on here. Let me see if I could restart my screen. Hang on, guys.
Yeah. While Sal works on that, I'll just talk about some of the things that people are bringing up in the chat, which are very worthwhile to point out. Yes, Patrick, peer review is very easily abused with groupthink, and this is just normal human behavior because of the fall and because of sin. People, when there's an established set of ideas, it is very hard, unless you are a big name, to drive a paper through peer review that contradicts that set of ideas. When Stephen Jay Gould debuted Punctuated Equilibrium, he could do that because he had an established name. He was very well established in his field. If an upcoming paleontologist who had maybe written one or two papers tried to do that, it was not teaching at Harvard, it would have been very hard for him to push that through. Schnully, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I'm sorry. I speak two languages, sarcasm and English, and sarcasm is the only one I'm fluent in. So this is true. A lot of papers that are published are riddled with errors. And you see this the more you read the scientific literature in a particular field. Like my specialty, one of my specialties is polyploidy. And I could talk for hours about that, so I'm not going to. But as I read polyploidy papers, I see mistakes. I see bad experimental design. I see poor use of statistics. And I just have to ask myself, who reviewed this and who vet this through? And unfortunately, this is common in a lot of fields in part because a lot of journals will struggle to get reviewers because people honestly don't really want to review. A lot of times they don't get paid for it. or if they get paid, they don't get paid very much. And they would, and it doesn't really advance their career. Like in science, in order to advance your career, it's the phrase "publish or perish" exists. If you aren't publishing, you're dying. Essentially, you're hurting your career. You're hampering your own career. And we have now lost Sal again.
Okay,
Okay, that was
sorry
interesting.
about that. My main computer just died again, so I'm on my backup. So someone really doesn't want this stream to go forward, and so you all pray for this stream.
Yes.
So let me just give you the goods here. Can you hear me, Emery?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Can you hear me, Emery?
Let me just give you the goods here.
Yep, I can hear you, Sal. Okay, can the stream?
Can you hear me, Emery?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. You do have your. I can hear your stream in the background though, Sal.
Yep, I can hear you, Sal.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. I think I got things synced up. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me show what the publication is. Before I go on, let me just. Can you say a quick prayer, Emery? Because we're really having some serious issues.
Yeah, at this point, I think the more prayer we do have here, the better.
Yes. If everyone could join us in prayer, I'd be appreciative, because apparently there's some dark forces that doesn't want this to come out. So please pray. And Emery, please lead us.
Sure. Dear God, our Heavenly Father, I humbly come before you, praising and glorifying you, Lord, for the day you've given to us. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to come together tonight and fellowship. Thank you for Sal getting published in this leading journal. And Lord, I pray that you will just help us to get through the rest of this stream with no further technical issues, and that we will be able to present the truth of your word and what it says about where we came from and where we're going. I pray you'll just keep Sal's computers functional and get them through this stream so that we're able to talk about the things that we need to talk about. And I ask this name of your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I got to tell the audience, this computer is working fine. I had a private stream going just last week. So just suffice to say, this seems a little creepy. But first, let me acknowledge people individually. Jesus Garcia, Andrew Graham, Schnouli from out there in Europe. And of course, Emery in Jungle Jargon. Patrick Alexander, great to see you. And if I missed someone, apologies in advance. I saw Janet Duttridge here. Delighted to see you in One Cow Stampede. So I was explaining that I'm really busy now because I'm trying to start a business and I have a job, and I do hope I could fit this in. So let me just show first off, let me share my screen and show first off the publication. There it is. Handbook of Mathematics and the Arts and Sciences. You can see the publisher is Springer, link. But if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see it says Springer Nature. So this is peer-reviewed book. This book retails for about anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400. It appears we're anticipating libraries will be buying this book as a reference work. It's not just a journal work, it's a reference work, peer-reviewed. And I'll tell how we got there. And I don't know if you could see this, maybe I'll highlight it. There it is, Dynamical Systems and Fitness Maximization in Evolutionary Biology. And it was edited by several editors, so this is definitely peer-reviewed. There are more. Yeah, see here are the section editors here listed, and their various affiliations. I want to. This is kind of a cute comment here in this book. It's edited and written by leading scientists. I got a chuckle out of that. Do you have any thoughts, Emery?
Everyone, I think that our leading scientist here is criminally undersubscribed. Go tell your friends you found a leading scientist channel and they need to come subscribe to it.
So this is a peer-reviewed publication. It's not in a peer-reviewed journal, but it's still fairly authoritative. I mean, we had to go through a lot of hoops. So there you go. So let me tell the story. I was trying to tell the story how this came about, but I'm going to have to transfer my PowerPoint because my main system is dead. Oh. I'm going to have to kill something here. So if there are any, I had my PowerPoint and now I can't share it. I'm going to have to try to transfer it. So Emery, if you have some thoughts, maybe you can read the abstract. Can you, if you just go to, let me see if I could bring it up, the abstract. Let me go back.
If you can just put the link in the private chat, Sal, I'll read the abstract.
Okay.
That will work amazing. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Why don't I give you a link to the paper in the private chat?
Yeah, just do that, and then I will.
I'm gonna do a stop share because we can actually go through some of the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give you the link to the paper, and then you can open it, and I'll dump that in the private chat.
Right.
Actually, I can even put it, since people are asking. My co-author made it publicly available.
Ooh, even better.
Okay, so you don't have to pay $1,000 just to see our article.
Yes, Sal, I like you, but I don't like you that much. Sorry, mate. I'm a poor college student. I don't have that kind of money.
Okay, so I'm gonna dump the link in the. First, I'll dump it into the. I'm dumping it into the main. So you can see it in the main comment section, Emery, and then you can pick it up there.
I just grabbed it.
And you should be able to, I'll let you screen share. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to get my poor computer back online. I don't know how I lost my video.
Holy jumping 67 pages, Sal?
It was actually 135, but we said that probably won't fly.
Holy jumping, okay.
Yeah, that was our magnum opus.
I can see that. Let me share that real quick.
So if you want to just share sections of it, but you could start with you could, why don't you show kind of the mathematical equations, because this is a mathematical book. I mean chapter in a book.
Okay, yeah. So I've got the share going. Let me find some of the math. Again, this thing's 67 pages long, so let me find some of the math.
All right, I'm gonna add you to the.
Here we go. Here's some math.
And so, guys, we could have a big nerd out session. Yes, FMS is Feed My Sheep Foundation. So this is the first big publication that John Sanford and I have put forward. And I got to say, I have a feeling some creationists are not happy with me because of my friendly relations with Dr. Daniel Stern Cardinal, etc. But I had a conversation with John Sanford today. There are other publications we're working on. We got approached by an editor to get another one out. So even though I'm no longer formally his employee, you can consider me a co-author and colleague now. And
I think that's a higher level. I think that's a higher rank than employee, Sal, isn't it?
Yes. So I have to self-finance now. So just in case there are any rumors that Dr. Sanford and I broke up, that's not true. We are continuing to work side by side and do this. And if people have questioned what I actually did for him, you can see some of this right here. And I got to admit, this is only, okay, so I worked with him 3/4 time, half to 3/4 time, maybe 1 year full time over 7 years. This constituted maybe if this was like a 5-month project here. So there's a lot more than what you're just seeing here.
A 67-page paper is a 5-month project?
Well, that's because we had Ola Hossjer, and the big author, really, the hero that no one hears about is Bill Basener. He's the hero of the story. Let me see if I can, while you're showing that, let me see if I can.
Yeah, I'm just showing off some of the math and some of the modeling.
Yeah, that's Bill Basener. He's an emeritus professor. So when you're saying that there's some of the guys that I work with that are like they know more than both Emory and I combined, Bill Basener is one of them. But the one who's the big name would be Ola Hossjer. So if we should actually, if you want to click around at some point while I get my PowerPoints together,
sure.
I'm going to try to transfer it because my primary computer's dying as far as StreamYard is concerned, but I think I might be able to transfer a PowerPoint to my backup. So
yeah, just looking at this list of individuals from ResearchGate, Hossjer has 124 publications, which is not nothing, and 1,400 citations. I mean, this guy.
Can you click on his qualifications, or you can find them out?
Let me see if.
In case anyone's saying that we were not qualified to write this paper, you should see the classes that he teaches. He is an award-winning mathematician. He won Sweden's National Award for Mathematician.
Yeah, he teaches at Stockholm University, Department of Mathematics, Professor of Mathematical Statistics. Yeah,
and there are other things.
No slouch.
If it lists, can you go to his university page?
Let me see if it'll let me get there. Okay, that's just ResearchGate. Let me pop open a new tab here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for helping me out. The Lord directed me to you today because there's no way I could have run the show by myself tonight. That's
fine. All right, so Stockholm University, and how on earth do I spell his last name? Sorry, I have no clue how to spell this gentleman's name.
Hossjer.
Hossjer. Okay, let me just copy paste that because otherwise, yeah, that's fine. Hossjer. No clue if that is a common Swedish last name or not, but there he is.
There's an English version. How did you get the Swedish? Oh, it has some. There it is.
Yeah, that's translate to English. There we go. All right, now I'm going to search again for him, but that's okay. Yeah, there we go. So he's, this is a link to some of his papers, I guess, over here on the right. And that's a lot of papers.
If we can get to listing of his classes.
Okay, let me.
I mean, you know, I can imagine some people are going to criticize us, to say the least. Okay, there it is. Look,
Yeah.
teaching. What does he teach?
Linear statistical models, categorical data analysis, coalescence theory, and population genetics.
Yes,
Stochastic
population
process.
genetics. Okay, he's qualified in these areas.
Yeah. He's taught 2 different population genetics classes, it looks like. Sorry, make that 3 different population genetics classes, and statistical modeling, which is basically what population genetics is.
And population genetics is it is related to the paper that we are writing about fitness maximization, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so I would say he's more qualified than most people on the internet that talk about evolutionary theory in this field of population genetics. See, look, okay, awards.
Yeah. Member of the Swedish team at the Mathematics Olympiad in Paris, 1983. Young Swedish Statistician of the Year, 1989. Gustafsson Prize in Mathematics,
That's
2009.
it. That's a national prize. #1 mathematician in Sweden.
Yeah,
that year.
this guy is not a joke.
No. Okay, so we got Bill Basener, and then we got a renowned genetic engineer in John Sanford. I'm the dumb kid on the block.
That is okay. When Sal can honestly say he's the dumbest person in the room, that's a really smart room. just I mean, this guy is, I mean, just look at this list of papers. I mean, just look at that. I mean, oh, good grief. And I mean, and just look at this list. He's got all these lists, this list of peer-reviewed publications that he's got. It just on and on and on and on and oh. And this is only accurate to 2018, by the way, because this doesn't include the last 3 years of his publications. Probably because the university just hasn't updated it. But I mean, this guy's no joke, guys. Dr. Hossjer is well, he's a lot smarter than anybody else in this room. Put it that way. So yeah, I don't know. Again, I'd not heard of this particular gentleman before, and he's kind of outside of my realm because I stay away from math, and this guy likes math. But he's clearly no slouch when it comes to yeah.
Okay, so I'm just telling you, this team earned the right to publish in this venue. I mean, you've got John Sanford. He's published in Nature. His invention is in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. So you got John Sanford. You got Ola Hossjer. And you have Bill Basener, emeritus professor of mathematics, and he's also now a professor at University of Virginia. And then you've got the dumb kid on the block, me. Okay, so if we were publishing like, when I published with Joe DeWeese, it had no evolutionary content really in it. It was protein structural biology. It was a big deal, at least for me professionally, just to be a co-author on that team. And we do have other publications in the works. Why would we be published even though, we have we have certain connections, affiliations that
make you very popular.
Yeah. It's because it's in cancer research, and they will give you a lot of leeway if you do good work to help cure the human condition. Big leeway. This publication, on the other hand, is a different story because it is, some of the conclusions were not very friendly toward the Darwinian viewpoint. And how did we get away with that? What we did was we combed the existing literature, because as you and I have found out, in evolutionary literature, they'll have very honest moments and say, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. The editor did get on our case and said, I thought we were going to get totally rejected. So what had happened was, let me see if I can finally get this. I hope my main computer is calmed down and I can actually show. Lord help us. And I don't mean that in a, in a
Right,
negative
yeah,
way. That is a sincere plea for help. So let me share this screen here. So this paper, there was a paper in 2017, 2018 by Bill Basener. Yeah, November 7, 2017 by Bill Basener and John Sanford, published in the Journal of Mathematical Biology. This set records for the number of downloads of any paper in the entire journal. Historic, and not by a small margin, by like factors of 2, 3, 4. And this was from, these are some parts from that paper. So Bill and Ola are the mathematicians, professional mathematicians. And so, yeah, I'm just an amateur by comparison. And so that got published. And, the Journal of Mathematical Biology is a Springer publication. And I think the editor of the handbook, Trying to Assemble, he noticed that. He said, we can't, this is the #1 paper of all time for this journal. Maybe we should invite Bill and John Sanford to write one. And so we got invited. That meant we almost had a clear path. So many times you're begging the editor to accept your publication. In this case, the editor was begging us, begging Bill and John, and say, because they did excellent work. There's nothing you can complain about for the math. They did excellent work. That was a contribution to the field of population genetics, and it just set records. So that was a miracle of God. And so they invite Bill Basener, and Bill had some very serious family illnesses. And I, believe me, I understand. And so he really had to attend to an ailing family member, and God bless him for that. So the project kind of just lingered and lingered. And like a month before the deadline, we were given a year. A month before the deadline, he writes me, he said, Sal, I can't finish this. I can't do this paper. Can you do it? I'm just like, Bill, we got 1 or 2 months. And I said, okay, I'll slap together what I can. And so I said, I don't understand that part of the math. I'll publish what I can. I said, why don't we make this an educational paper? And so there was another paper that I got published through the Blyth Institute, which isn't, ID friendly. So it wasn't purely, we wouldn't count it as mainstream. But that was the original vision I had for this paper. So basically I got pulled on. He said, well, we can make you one of the authors here. You might, and there's an interesting debate if I was going to be the lead author. I said, guys, this isn't really, I'll do what I can, I don't want to disgrace, but I got enough of the paper. It was about 30 or 40 pages, and they really liked it. And they said, well, maybe this could actually fly. And then so Bill started importing sections from his other paper, and we got an extension. And then also because of the coronavirus, we got extended all the way to to like 5 months. And then Ola Hossjer joined us, and he was helping us do a lot of internal review. And we're like, Ola, thank you. So that's kind of how the paper evolved. So what ended up happening, this is like a 130-page paper, and most of my contributions were cut out after the paper got put together, but at least that's how it was. I mean, I was honored. And so a lot of my contributions then ended up being the Blyth paper that I've talked about on this channel. I think we lost a lot of people when we started flashing all the math there. Right.
We're not doing too bad, Sal.
So guys, sorry, this was like, if you think I'm nerdy, this is like nerd squared, that paper, because of Bill Basener. So Bill rightly deserved the title of lead author. And I really was the only one full-time on the paper for like 3 months. So that's why I got second author. So I did a lot of what you would expect to be the, some of the newcomer that does the grunt work. So I did a lot of the reference lookups and stuff. I drew some of the diagrams. I checked some of the math. Now, people that may read this paper they probably will catch a few things that drop through the editing process, because we were just kind of stretched thin toward the end. I mean, people know my situation, and then I just shared about Bill's. And John Sanford's like always busy. Ola Hossjer is just pumping out papers like crazy. He was working simultaneously on like the waiting time problem that recently got published in the Journal of Theoretical Biology, not to mention he's teaching classes. And then he's also trying to get some other papers pushed through. So Ola's a busy guy too. So we had a 130-page paper, and I said, guys, this isn't gonna fly. With the editor, I said, we're already pushing it with, even 30 pages. So we chopped it down. We got it down to 65, 67 pages. So I can now, so that's a little history of the paper. This is how hard we had to work, especially Bill Basener. Bill's the kind of like the silent hero of all this, because he's like a lot of mathematicians. He's not out in the limelight like I am. I'm a YouTube personality. Bill is not, okay? But he's the unsung hero, and he really deserves a lot of the credit for why this succeeded. If you have any questions here, and I'm going to go through the PowerPoint slide just a little bit, and then we'll shut the stream down. We'll have a chance to go through this. Emery? Emery, are you there? Did we... Emery, did I lose you?
All right, Sal, nerd away.
Oh, okay. Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still good. I just had to step away and grab some water.
Okay. So we're going to cover more of this paper as time unfolds. So this is more or less an announcement thing. And we had by mutual agreement kind of a gag order, because we were afraid if we announced that we were going to get published, we might get a retraction. Well, now this is a hard book. This is a hardcover book. $1,400. Okay. If they do a retraction, it'd be a little painful, but why would they retract it? We didn't say anything that's outside the mainstream, and our contribution was Bill Basener's, really, to reframing Fisher's fundamental theorem of natural selection with mutations added. So there's nothing we said that is not in the mainstream. What we had done, though, is contrast what's in the mainstream with what people think is popular, kind of the popular evolutionary literature. And yeah, we savaged Richard Dawkins a little bit, okay, in the process. And just a little bit of a backstory. A lot of population geneticists think very low of Richard Dawkins. He may be esteemed as atheism's messiah and viewed as a great evolutionary biologist, but the population genetic community does not think highly of him. All right. E.O. Wilson at Harvard said, yeah, he's just a reporter. Didn't refer to him as a scientist. Okay, that's how low of opinion they have of him as a scientist.
Stings.
Yeah. He's just a journalist. He's not a scientist. Okay, so what we did is, knowing that, and as I looked at the mainstream literature, I'm just like, oh my goodness, he doesn't, I know Fisher's theorem better than Richard Dawkins. Dawkins doesn't understand it. And I don't know if the final version of our paper, we went through like 100. I can't even keep track, if it mentioned Richard Dawkins, calling it biology's central theorem. And we called that out, that it's not the central theorem. Fisher's
that is in the final copy. I just searched for it. Real quick.
My, okay.
That is in the final copy.
All right, so we savaged Dawkins. We called him out on it, basically, because that's a popular myth. And if you ask you're a biology student. Have you ever been told what the central theorem of biology was in any of your classes?
I won, but that's because I deliberately took a class on sexual selection.
Okay. And so what was the central theorem? Was it Fisher's fundamental theorem of natural selection?
Yeah. Well, okay. No and yes, because they said yes, but then they said that what they said was it's referred to sometimes as the fundamental theorem, as Fisher's fundamental theorem, but, and then they caveated it by saying sexual selection doesn't always play well with natural selection.
But did they call it the fundamental theorem of biology?
No.
Yeah, you see? And Dawkins calls it the biology's central theorem.
That's bunk.
Yeah, that's bunk. There you go, Richard Dawkins, author of Blind Watchmaker. So there you go. I mean, why is pointing that out not fair game for a peer-reviewed publication? And I'll point out kind of some other things.
Things will lose their mind, Sal. That's why it's not fair game.
Yeah. So, all right. So now let me point out the mainstream stuff that, so really the paper is saying, guys, there is stuff in the mainstream literature that the popular science writers don't want to cover. And so our paper is mainstream in the sense it may not agree with the popular understanding of evolutionary biology, which sometimes actually even seeps into some of the textbooks at various levels, but it wouldn't be considered kind of the elite understanding of population genetics. So let me share a little bit of that. This is the PowerPoint here. So let me just quote some of the elite in evolutionary theoretical genetics. Here you go. Joe Felsenstein in 1989. Fisher and Wright's one-locus equations turn out to be approximations, sometimes bad ones. The mathematical tools at hand have not revolutionized our understanding of the evolutionary process. Let me read that again. The mathematical tools at hand have not revolutionized our understanding of the evolutionary process. They're pointing out all the 100 years of math that we've been throwing at evolutionary theory, it's not revolutionized our understanding. And he says, many evolutionists, yes, he uses the word evolutionists in a peer-reviewed paper, many evolutionists will fail to find the clear and simple messages that population genetics theory once seemed to promise. So population genetics theory once seemed to promise they'd come up with a clear and simple message. That has not happened. So many evolutionists will fail to find the clear and simple messages that population genetics theory once seemed to promise. So they were Go
Can I
on,
take 30
please.
seconds to just make sure people know who Felsenstein is? Because you and I know who he is,
Yes.
but I'm at least one person in the chat knows who he is. So Felsenstein is a mathematician. He's does some work with evolutionary biology, does a lot of work with phylogenetics. He's the guy who introduced bootstrapping to phylogenetics, if you know what that is. Basically invented it for the purposes of phylogenetic work. When he says that mathematics and evolution are not working together, he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
Go
Yes.
ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. And really, the point is, why can't we say that in a peer-reviewed publication? And we did. So it's how did we get through it? It's because we have the basis of what they themselves have said, and we only built upon it. So what we did was, because of Bill Basener, he was able to add something novel with Fisher's fundamental theorem with mutations. And John Sanford said, hey, Bill, this needs to have mutations in it. And so John had kind of the instinctive idea that you need to add mutations. This is going to fall apart once you add mutations. Bill took that and ran with it. God bless him, because this has probably been a 5-year project for Bill Basener as a mathematician. So if you ask how did we get away with this, quote unquote, because we didn't do anything that the mainstream doesn't know, that the elites don't know. It's the popular press that doesn't seem to want to highlight this. So that's how we, quote unquote, got away with it. We didn't say anything that is not already known by the elites. So now the next slide here, if I can.
Yeah. And just while Sal's changing slides, just so people understand, this kind of censorship where the elites know that it doesn't work but don't tell anybody has been going on for a very long time. Walter Remine ran into this back in the 80s.
Yeah. Now they do tell in peer review, but it's in the language, it's in journals that no one reads except them.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to credit them. They don't, they're open about it enough, but they won't try to go to the popular science people and say, hey, look, we discovered all these problems. They don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is both privately and then in their peer review, it's there. You just have to dig and find it. And so it's people like Ola, it's people like John Sanford, it's people like me that would dig this up. And so me as kind of the grunt on the project, I dug up some stuff. And so the stuff that reads more like English in the paper, that's probably Sal. Okay. So the section on Lewontin's Lamentations, that was me. The part on some of the math with the discrete version of Fisher's theorem, that was me. And definitely the stuff on biophysics with William Bialek, that was me. But the heavy lifting on the math was definitely Bill Basener. There's mention of stuff with mutations in Mendel's accountant and genetic deterioration. That's John Sanford, but he was the one who pointed me to Muller's work. So I have a few pages on Muller's work. And again, we shrunk this down from like 130 pages. So I'm tempted to kind of dig up the pages that did get on the cutting room floor because they were pretty good too. One of them I did assemble and put it in a separate publication that was published 1 or 2 years ago through the Blyth Institute with, on Fisher's theorem. So here's one thing about Fisher's theorem. This is kind of comical. Fisher may have been correct if only we could understand what he meant. And this is Fisher's statement of his theorem. The rate of increase in fitness of any organism at any time is equal to its genetic variance and fitness at that time. Believe me, people have argued what that meant because he didn't use any math symbols. And oh yeah, this went on for like half a century, trying to figure out what the heck did he mean. Okay, so it got uncoiled and they came to some understanding. And we said, well, what someone realized is, let me see if I have the equation here. Well, the original, let's see if I could call this up. Emery, do you have some comments while I bring up?
Sure.
Now that my computer, I'm going to try to grab a piece from. Okay, I'm going to grab that Blyth Institute paper, and I'm going to start to put some links in the video description at some point.
Okay.
Sure. That Blyth Institute paper was the cutting room stuff that didn't, like I said, it's a 130-page paper for this chapter, and we had to cut it down to 67 pages. Okay, so about 10 pages of that, I made another paper, and I got that published. And I'm going to bring that up while Emery, you talk for a little bit.
Sure,
Thank you.
Sure. So I have actually read Fisher's book on natural selection. I won't claim to have understood a lot of it because there's a lot of math in it. And math and I get along very, very well. Again, as I said earlier, I'm fluent in 2 languages, sarcasm and English, and I'm not so sure about the second one. But Fisher was trying to merge Darwinism with what the new understandings that they had of genetics. That was part of Fisher's whole. He was very involved in forming the neo-Darwinian synthesis, which is what we have, or otherwise known as the modern synthesis. Fisher phrased a lot of things in mathematical terms, but he did not always define them with equations. And that sentence by Fisher, it's a mathematical equation phrased in words, but it is very difficult to figure out exactly what he's trying to get across because, okay, we have an increase in fitness, we have a variance in this, and it's a very, I have an idea sort of just from reading it what he means, but to put it into like quantifiable terms is a whole nother matter because it's completely possible to sort of vaguely grasp the point he's driving at, but at the same time not be able to quantify said point, which is the bigger problem because everything in natural selection and population genetics and so on works on math. And if you can't quantify something, you really can't play with it in the population genetics realm. And being that natural selection has such a big impact on population genetics, Fisher's fundamental theorem is not so fundamental after all, Sal. Anyways, on to you.
Okay, so this was my paper. So some stuff that was originally going to go into the Nature paper, like I said, we had to cut it out. So I cut out and I reassembled the scraps into this paper that got the Blyth Institute accepted. Fisher's fundamental theorem of natural selection is not fundamental after all. And you can hear some of the echoes of the bigger paper in here. And so let me see if I could just show mathematically a simple statement of, there it is. If you could see equation 17 here, this is one version. This is the simplified version of Fisher's theorem for one gene and what they call discrete generations. The more general one is nasty. Okay, but if you wanted to see, you could say this is either Fisher-like or it's a simplified Fisher's theorem statement of it right there. And so the one Bill Basener tackled was like the general form that dealt with multiple genes. And as you saw, this is Bill Basener's. That's Bill Basener's.
Oh,
okay.
Boy. Yeah.
Okay. If you see the summations, this is what happens when you have to have multiple mutations and multiple genes. It just, the order of magnitude becomes it's just nasty. All right.
So can I just interject something here?
Yeah.
This is why the evolutionists almost never try to quantify natural selection on the whole organism. Because they would have to deal with an equation like that.
Yeah.
Except it would be even more complicated because it's not just a couple of genes, it's now the whole organism.
Okay. So what else did we uncover? What else did we find out that's in the evolutionary literature? I mean, Bill just had an instinct, and so did I, and we were just combing. I said, okay, you know, because math is math, and we feel that, you know, they have shown a level of candor and honesty in some of their obscure publications that no one reads except us, that will give us what we were looking for. The first problem is the theorem falls apart if the fitness changes by the environment. Okay, so what's an example? Like industrial melanism, if that's even still legitimate. So okay, so these equations are totally invalid because you assume the fitness, what's selected for in one generation is going to be selected for with the same intensity in the next. So what if the environment changes? All this is out the window. All that labor, gone. So that's the first problem. The next is if you add mutations, all that is gone. And so we tried to add a correction factor, and that's what Bill Basener did. And then we began to realize, oh my, the fitness goes down. So those are just some of the things. And what really blew my mind away, and Bill found this because some papers were published, even if you use all the evolutionary definitions of fitness, once you add what they call epistasis and linkage, there's no guarantee it's going to maximize. And that was a paper by Grodwall. I mean, so when Felsenstein was talking about, he was lamenting about all the things in population genetics. He was involved in seeing some of that. And so there's this paper by Grodwall. He said it was a beautiful theory indeed, the rise and fall of fitness maximization. And I think the editor was a little shocked because he didn't know of all this going on. And we had to kind of temper things down a little bit because it wasn't the narrative he was aware of. And we had to be able to justify it and said, hey, look, you know, experts in this field that have studied this all their lives are they're the ones articulating this. We can't responsibly make a paper on this and not point this out. I mean, you want a mathematical handbook on the state of population genetics and these things, we can't. I mean, could we in good conscience, knowing what we know, and then also knowing what's in the literature, not point this out? That, in fact, it's in Joe Felsenstein's own graduate level evolutionary genetics textbook that he teaches. There's a section on there on the Moran process, epistasis, and linkage. And he said, well, this was the problem. We realized we couldn't maximize fitness anyway. Fisher's theorem falls apart if the environment changes, the fitness parameters changes. It could also fall apart if you have linkage in the genes and epistasis. Now, those are technical terms, but it's like goodbye fundamental theorem of natural selection. There's no guarantee this will work, you know? None of this works, in other words.
It's like Hardy-Weinberg. Hardy-Weinberg only exists in the mind. The actual Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is a complete myth. You only apply it to make the math easier.
Yeah. So I overstated. I said none of it works. None of it is guaranteed to work. None of it's guaranteed anymore. Well, many bets are off.
Well, okay. So we know linkage happens. We know that environmental change happens. And what was the third thing? I missed part of that. I didn't catch all because I was thinking.
Mutations.
Yeah.
And
mutations
epistasis.
We know happen every generation. Linkage happens every generation. Our environmental change happens frequently, and even more frequently if we go with the evolutionary history of life on Earth. I mean, this sounds an awful lot like Hardy Weinberg, where we make a bunch of simplifying assumptions that we know aren't true, and then come out and say, "Oh yeah, this is correct."
Well, Fisher's theorem relied on infinite population sizes,
Like
and so
Hardy
there's
Weinberg.
no drift. Yeah. Okay, so now I got to point something out because I know some of my detractors are going to have stuff on YouTube, and I'm not going to mention the name.
Go ahead.
And I was called in on this, and it was getting dismissed. I said, dude, sorry to, I'm trying to be polite because, I'm the nice guy. Maybe I should have had more of you. I should have said, dude, you're out of your ballpark to be criticizing me on this. Sorry. If you knew who my co-authors were. So at the time I was silent about this. Okay. I said, if you knew the caliber of the co-authors I'm working with, you wouldn't be trying to criticize me. I said, you'd be trying to learn from me. Sorry.
No,
I would just see these guys on YouTube. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yes, he would still be trying to criticize you because the atheists on YouTube have a god complex. They think they know absolutely everything, and they don't need to learn from anybody.
Honestly, if you wanted to know who my co-authors were, yeah, so they would criticize. But I'm just like, dude, you have no place to be so dismissive. You don't know the caliber of people you're dealing with who are teaching me this stuff. And so here's one of the papers right here. The theory is beautiful indeed. The rise, fall, and circulation of maximizing methods in population genetics from 1930 to 1980. This is a devastating paper. So they figured out this won't really work well for evolutionary theory. It ended up being useful for what they call quantitative genetics, which I'm not at all familiar with. Okay, so there's something called quantitative genetics, and I don't know anything about that.
I'm not an expert in that.
So they transplanted the math because it's not working for evolutionary theory and put it in quantitative genetics. But so they kind of made this story a little bit, they took kind of the edge, kind of the sting out of it by saying, oh, well, we got some circulation of maximizing methods in population genetics. But really the big story is the rise and fall of maximizing methods in population genetics. So the title of our paper modified that and said, dynamical systems in evolutionary biology. I'm embarrassed now. I don't even remember the title of my own paper.
The title of your paper, Sal, is Dynamical Systems and Fitness Maximization in Evolutionary Biology.
Okay, so thank you. I'm embarrassed now, man. So our paper was about fitness maximization. Could we in good conscience say and give the narrative that Dawkins gives, that, or even Darwin himself, that evolution's always moving forward, knowing what we know now, and knowing that we have peer-reviewed papers like this, like the one I just highlighted, that would be professionally irresponsible not to point this out. So you ask how we got this in. We didn't use creationist literature. We used elite level population genetics. That's all we did. But even that, we were like, we could get rejected, because this is not what people want to hear. So that was one of the things we uncovered. And that paper I cited was only 2017. I could also cite Joe Felsenstein's own book where he describes some of this. And then maybe one day we'll do a show on Richard Lewontin, because I did the section on Lewontin's Lamentations. And Lewontin basically gave up. He said, what is fitness? He said it's hard to define. And so I covered that. And then finally, I'm the one who brought in, I said, I came from this is kind of the out of the box approach. I'm the one who threw in the the part on biophysics. I said, if you want to talk about true fitness in the sense that this is adapted to the environment, you have to frame it not in terms of reproductive success, but in terms of biophysics and engineering principles. So, for example, a whale is not fit to operate in the desert. You don't have to frame it in terms of reproductive success. He doesn't reproduce well in the desert because he'd be dead, okay? So, but fundamentally the problem is the equipment he has doesn't enable him, it's not designed well to operate in that environment. So just like we would say, you know, a submarine really is not designed to operate in the desert. We don't have to frame it in terms of reproductive success. We could say, okay, you need equipment like this if you're going to operate in the desert. Or conversely, you can't take a car and make it a submarine without some major changes. So the thing is as far as reproductive success, you can actually say something's more fundamental than reproductive success to indicate fitness for an environment. You have to look at it through engineering principles. Just like I said, you know, a submarine operating in a desert, you can take those engineering principles and say that's exactly why a whale wouldn't survive in the desert. And you can decouple it then from reproductive success. Reproductive success depends on more fundamental principles of what we would consider true fitness, or true adaptation. So that was the stuff, that was an angle I tried to throw in, and hence how you and I met. You got invited to talk with the debate Dapper Dino on evolutionary fitness, and I ended up engaging Dapper Dino on modern day debate. But that was actually part of my professional work at the time, and I didn't really want to disclose that because that was a sensitive thing that I was working on, that part of saying, you know, we need to look at the whole issue of fitness. And when I presented this a little bit to Paul Nelson, he's the one who gave us the R.H. Brady paper. And for our viewers,
yes, we did. Oh, the most criminally underwatched series of either one of us has ever done. But it was
five and a half episodes, 10 hours long on fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So now you've seen, now it's reflected now. A lot of that is thrown into some of that toward the tail end of our, to the Nature paper. And what's the title again is Dynamical Systems and Fitness Maximization in Evolutionary Biology. I better memorize the title of my own paper. So it's been a privilege and honor, and that's kind of the saga. Mm-hmm. Did we break any new ground? Yes, with the one with Bill Basener, adding mutations to Fisher's fundamental theorem. That was a big deal. And so we can claim definitely novelty there. And then really just kind of pulling pieces from other peer-reviewed literature and just highlighting the fact that, you know, there's a lot in the mainstream literature that's kind of in obscure places that doesn't agree with the mainstream narrative. So will they pull our paper now that, you know, we're being public? I hope not. Because there's nothing there that is creationist or ID. We're just telling what the mainstream has said, and then we added something with Fisher's fundamental theorem and mutations. I dug up a lot of the stuff on Mueller and then the Poisson distribution and Kimura. So you could, that's kind of my amateur contribution to the math there. So that'll probably be it for, you know, the introduction. We might have some serious nerd sessions if I have time. Mm-hmm. We can get into the details of this. So Emery, if you have any thoughts.
Well, the first thought is that even when I was just getting introduced to you, I was still almost getting you in trouble. I just put you in a position where you had to talk about something you were doing professionally that you weren't supposed to talk about.
Yeah. Well, you know, actually, it was good that I talked about it without really saying it's related to the paper, because that was how I was getting, that's how I could feel whether I had good material. So talking with Dr. Dan, Stern Cardinal, and Dapper Dino, and talking to that community, I said, okay, you're going to give me feedback whether I can get a sense whether this is good stuff. Through the debates and dialogue, they actually helped me. Okay, so credit. So this is something that I think I'd like people like Doki Doki to understand. It's like, why is Sal so friendly with Dr. Dan and Dapper Dino? They have genuinely helped my creationist work. This publication is an example of how they have helped me. And I can say in good conscience, if they read the paper, there'll be a lot of sections I would expect Dr. Dan to agree with, because this comes from mainstream literature, okay? If he wants to disagree with some stuff, he would be disagreeing with some parts of mainstream literature, which, you know, I would respect him still. But there really is nothing there that you can't say isn't written by some of the most elites, and it is in context. So if you're wondering why I'm friendly, Dr. Dan has helped me immensely. He helped me with phylogenetics and stuff. There's really good stuff to learn. And as I said, you know, Dr. Sanford didn't send me to creationist schools to learn biology. He sent me to the NIH to learn about God's creation under evolutionary biologists and people and scientists that believe in evolution. He wanted me to be trained by them. He'd want me to be trained by people like Dr. Dan, because he felt that that would help our team to make better scientific papers.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, this is part of the reason why I kind of get some of the same flack that you do, because I'm a little bit nicer to some of these evos than maybe certain other people would like. I mean, I had Andrew Cumming, the rational empiricist, on my channel for an hour the other night, last week, I think, where we just talked phylogenetics for an hour. And it was you know, we had a great conversation. And I'm not, like, I'm a little more aggressive than you are, Sal. Not that that's hard. I'll throw punches if I need to. But I'm also, like, I'm not about, like, there are certain people who just, I'm not going to waste my time. Like, but if you're reasonable and you're willing to have a conversation, we can, you know, okay, but we can sit down, talk about it, and we can go through, you know, what we know and talk science. I am all about doing good science. If we can sit down and do science, I'm all for that. So, and it doesn't particularly matter who's willing to talk, so long as people are willing to talk and they're going to be respectful about it. So that's about all I ask. So,
Doki asked the question, can I share around the Academy channel, Sal? Sure. I presume that's not my Evidence Reasons Academy channel. I mean, I could put it there.
I'm not sure what he's getting at with that.
Yeah, but yeah, I got the green light to advertise this. Okay, so if you're wondering what I was saying, that I have to be kind of quiet about a peer review paper, it was this one. It was this one. So just out of curiosity, I got to see this. Let's see, handbook. Okay, so it's selling for 831 euros in Spain.
I don't know why you got
the Spanish price.
Why do you have the Spanish price?
All right, handbook. Let's see what the Amazon price is.
I'm not even sure it'll be on Amazon.
So I don't know how what's the
I'll do the exchange.
I think this is going to be funny. I think I even saw it at Walmart.
If it's 899 euros, it's over $1,000 US.
Okay, you can get it at discount for $819 at Walmart.
At Walmart? What how many copies they'll sell? 3?
Hey. Well, you know what that's telling me? What they're probably doing is they probably just connected themselves to some book distributor.
Right, yeah.
And they could just put it on their webpage just so they could make sales. But that is hilarious. hey guys, $800
to your local Walmart. Make it sell
go to your
out.
local Walmart and you could pick up Sal. You could get all that math nerdy stuff.
I'm losing it over here.
I know. But it is nice to know that I'm on the, you know, they're at least putting me on the virtual bookshelves of Walmart.
Somehow, Sal, when I thought that you'd have a book at a Walmart, I did not think it would be that book.
So,
well, praise the Lord for his goodness.
yes. And everybody, I want to thank you for praying for this stream because, all right, you know, I'm a science guy and I try not to be superstitious, but stuff like this happens when I feel like I have a really important message to give. And, you know, StreamYard will be working really well for other presentations and it just dies. This show almost didn't come to fruition. And
between my tech problems and your tech problems, we were like 25 minutes later than anticipated. So,
yeah. So I really, you know, could be totally natural, but still, thank you for praying for this show because this, you know, I'm really happy tonight because I was really sad. We got published, and I was thinking, oh Lord, you know, John and I and Ola, you know, had an agreement that we'd keep it quiet, and then that all changed today. And he said, no, we're not going to play into their hands. You know, they want us to keep a low profile. So what happens if they have a retraction now? It's like, okay, we'll deal with it. So we've recorded the fact. I've given evidence that we really did get published and accepted. If they make a retraction now, it's going to be also a big deal. And you know, the irony is, if they do that, this paper might actually even be more popular.
Probably.
But there's no, as I said, the only reason it would be retracted is not because of the content. Yeah, we had some typos there. I'm pretty sure we still had some typos. I'm sorry to say it. Because this is a 60, you know, we were chopping and cutting down to the last
Nobody
minute.
Publishes a book without typos in it.
Yeah. So I know, because I was doing a lot of editing work, and I'm just like, we got to make our deadline. I said, all the ones that I was finding, I said, oh goodness, what else is left? Okay, so you can fault us for that. All right, I will upfront admit. But the basic message, there's nothing there that should be objectionable. This is in elite literature. And if they want to say that, hey, you guys didn't understand this, I said, okay, you look at Ola Hossjer, who we really sought out and we're glad. He said that this is really good stuff. He was kind of like our internal editor. Someone that senior, he could sit on peer-reviewed committees, okay? He probably does in population genetics.
Given his track record for publications, if he hadn't been an author, I would not have been surprised if he'd been a reviewer on that paper.
Yeah, right. So if they're saying, you guys don't understand evolution, I just laugh. I said, look at my co-author, Ola Hossjer. In fact, he and I actually had some exchanges on math. He thought I got something wrong, and I had to actually justify it because there's some stuff with Muller's notation from haploid to diploid that were ambiguous, and he helped me confirm that I actually got it right. So, you know, collectively, you can't say that the team is unqualified. And I would just laugh if people say we don't understand evolutionary theory. I'm just like, okay, you look at the qualifications of that team. I'd say we probably know it better than most evolutionists. Okay, I'm not really good at phylogenetics, okay? And that's why we have Dr. Dan. But if you want to talk about natural selection and evolutionary processes, this team was really qualified. And I'm glad we had a chance to showcase so much talent all in one paper. And I'm the dumb kid on the block.
Again, when Sal is the dumbest person in the room, that's a really smart room.
So guys, thank you. And Emery, some closing thoughts and we'll shut the stream down. This isn't goodbye. And I do have to say, guys, you're not going to see me, you know, I love this summer. I can't thank you enough for being with me through those long streams, like my 4.5 hour zinc finger presentation. I'm employed now, and I also have some side business projects in mathematical finance because I'm hoping that'll be a source of passive income so I could return to creationism full time. But you guys have supported me so much. And I can't tell you how much I miss hanging out with you every day like I did over the summer. You helped me get through a really bad time in the grieving process over my mother's passing. And you know, I'd be lucky to get in a show every week, even one show. Speaking of which, before I forget, I'm going to have one show on all the activities in October. And it'll be just, I'm going to have maybe just a brief show. So this is an administrative thing. October 2nd, and I'll get more details. Rob Carter's going to be in the area, and you get to meet me and Rob Carter in Frederick, Maryland. He's also going to be in Springfield, October 3rd. There's going to be a creationist meeting in Frederick again, most likely on Monday. And then in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I'll be there. And you get to meet me with another creationist. So I'm going to give a whole show just on that. That's going to be just like a 5-10 minute show. And so that's a chance to meet and greet. I'm not going to be at McLean Bible's Tyson's campus. Too much heat there. Okay. I think some of you understand. So I'm going to pass that off to Emery.
You know where to find me, Sal.
Yeah. So guys, there might be a chance to meet and greet in the DC area in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Oh, also Newark, Delaware, near the University of Delaware. So I'm going to make an announcement of my itinerary, and I might even be in some obscure town called Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania. I have to find that out. So there's going to be a lot of creationist events, and I really don't have time for it, but I owe Dr. Carter at least a courtesy visit and some of these other creationists. So even though you don't see me on YouTube very much, there are a lot of activities happening, and there's a lot of, the other thing is now that I'm mobile, now that Mom's gone home to be with the Lord, I'm mobile, so a lot of my creationist stuff now is in brick and mortar places. I'm actually able to talk to people live. So that's also some of the reasons you don't see me. And it has been fun holding the title of #1 YouTube creationist. I don't know how long I could keep that if I'm not on YouTube, at least every now and then. But I hope if they ever do the voting again, they'll at least consider this paper that I published, because I think that'll help set me apart from the others. So Emery, if you have some closing thoughts, and then I'll say a few words.
I'm just thankful that I got to join you for this stream. I've missed hanging out. I've missed being able to drop in on Sal's streams every couple of nights, and get on Sal's nerves as much as I possibly can, and and throw punches for him. No, I'm just picking. But no, I've missed being able to do this. I've missed being able to talk science as much. That's been was a regular part of my evening for quite some time, and so I'm thankful that we got to do it again tonight. I look forward to doing some more doing some more at some point when you have the opportunity. I am very upset though that the opportunities that your next meet and greets and whatnot, and when you're speaking with Rob Carter is the week it is, because I have people coming in to visit that week. I can't leave, otherwise I'd be driving. But
well, thank you.
But anyways, so Guy, if you're in the DC metro area, and I know that area is like a giant cavernous hole in the ground, but if you're in that area, definitely make sure you go see Sal when he's speaking. I guarantee you will get a blessing out of it. So that's my 2 cents to end it.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And Emery, you are a godsend. This stream would not have happened if you weren't helping me there through the technical difficulties, and there were so many. And I don't know how my computer just spontaneously recovered, but I praise God for how it self-healed or was healed by the Lord. And so my next show might be just talking about my itinerary, and that'll be a short show. So maybe Friday I'll have that out. And I really miss you guys, and I love you guys, and you're in my thoughts and prayers. So everyone who's joined us live and then also by recording, thank you so much for helping me celebrate this day. And I had this in kind of our quote unquote wine cellar. I've got bottles of champagne here. See, I have Asti Cinzano. I can't even pronounce that. And I have Corbel champagne, and I've got other bottles. Not that I'm necessarily going to drink it all at once or even tonight, but it just kind of put me in a good mood. So praise the Lord in these troubled times. He's revealing his work in creation to comfort us. And God be with you all. And have a good night. Take care.